Hello, Maverick traders, and welcome out to your daily currency recap. This is Ankit here, and let's break down today's market price action. It's a Tuesday, September the 17th. Let's get into it. As always, we'll be breaking down today's market price action by looking at broader market analysis. Then we'll take a look at currency baskets and take a look at the major news events, and then we'll talk about our upcoming 24 hours, looking at possible setups ahead. Let's get into it.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional stock and option traders. Maverick Trading is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
So looking at our market analysis today, let's just jump right into the numbers and the news of the day. So looking at the news of the day, well, nothing really has changed. We are still awaiting the FOMC rate decision, which is again heading out tomorrow. And all the eyes are on the Fed here. Are they going to cut by 25 basis points, by 50 basis points? We'll find out in the next 24 hours. So that's really what's really driving the markets here. Market sentiment overall remains bullish. Nothing really has shifted too much. We'll take a look at percentage change and see where we are seeing a bigger change. Now, here's the percentage change today. And you can see that the biggest change I'm seeing is yen. And again, if you go back to the last 3 weeks, yen has been on a tear, has been the volatile currency. Has been bouncing back and forth, mostly downside, mostly is gaining strength. But then here we are getting a nice sharp pullback. I mean, you should look back yesterday. The dollar yen almost hit that below that 140 mark and then quickly reversed. And since then, the market's been stabilized here. So something we got to note for as we go into tomorrow. Outside of that, we can see that the dollar holding in there. We have the Swiss franc mostly flat, euro slightly strong. You can see that percentage change wasn't too big here. The only difference I'm seeing here is that the Aussie is actually performing better compared to the Kiwi. Remember, Kiwi has been more on the lead. Now it seems like Aussie is in the lead. So here we are again. The market looks pretty positive. So we are not really seeing, the growth currencies weaken here because, they kind of run on the market sentiment overall. Now, if you take a look at the CAD is kind of doing very similar to what the dollar is doing. So going to tomorrow, again, we'll talk about possible case scenarios, but it's holding steady as we go into tomorrow. Now, if you take a look at the numbers here outside of the cryptocurrency market, you can see that the S&P was mostly flat. It just touched that resistance level. It tried to break above the resistance level and it just closed below it. So we are seeing the market's kind of holding it steady here. Crypto getting a nice little rise here. And then the gold did pull back and so did the oil. So again, gold and oil has been rising. So a bit of a pullback here. Now in the crypto world, you can see that Bitcoin did the best. And so is Ethereum. So seeing a bit of a relief rally going to tomorrow. So our big focus again tomorrow is where we are in the markets. And again, we are definitely sitting at a +2. We are above the moving averages here. But you can see that we have the resistance level in place. And then the resistance level, we did come close to breaking out. You can see where we did pierce through and just fell right back lower. So we don't have a confirmed breakout. Usually we don't get big breakouts before the news event. So here we are. Just waiting for that. Again, depending on what comes out, either the market sentiment probably stay positive. It really depends if they do a 50 basis point cut. Maybe that's where we see a bigger movement. But I think that's very, I'm not going to say unlikely because if you take a look at the expectation, until Friday, they were expecting a 50-50 chance. Now, we can talk about our opinion. I don't think they will do it, but this is where we got to wait and watch. Now, if you take a look at the economic numbers, you can see that we had some event this morning, but the biggest one is really starting tomorrow. We had the retail sales number, but you had the Canadian CPI. It didn't really have a big impact, but I think the big focus is going to be on that tomorrow. Even the pound CPI, I'm not really looking to trade either. I think my entire focus is going to be on the FOMC rate decision and what follows after that. And if you take a look at it, after that, we have the the Kiwi GDP, and we had the Aussie employment report. I think tomorrow is a great day to be active, and especially if you can catch a good move off the rate statement, especially the Aussie and the Kiwi pairs. I think they will be worth holding it through, or helping us with these new other events that we can parlay into. As you can see, that going tomorrow, we had the Bank of England rate statement. We had the Bank of Japan restatement. So it's quite a bit of unpack to do as we go into the second half of this trading week. Now, let's just jump into our currency analysis and let's take a look at what the velocity scores are. And now, if you look at the velocity score, it looks pretty clear. I mean, yen finally is now showing a lot more weakness. We'll take a look at the scoring, but today it is on a -2 pound. It's just pulling back a little bit in a -1, but you can see a majority of these things are kind of in a +2 to +3, notably the Aussie. So remember, we always talk about best case scenario, worst case scenario. And I think in the best case scenario, if you're looking for, let's say the dollar really weaken, then I think Aussie probably be the better pick here. But then if you go for the weakest currency, I think I'll have to really take a look at it. Maybe against the CAD. Dollar CAD has been holding it okay. So let's just jump into the possible charts here. Let's take a look at some setups and get into it.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
Now, looking at the charts, I'm just going to quickly highlight what we're really focusing on tomorrow, which is the dollar. And remember, this is what's really in focus: dollar and probably the yen crosses. Outside of that, we're not trying to pair pound against the CAD or Aussie against the Kiwi. That's not the trade. The trade is the dollar crosses and possibly take a look at yen crosses too. So you can see that where we are, dollar. Let's just actually change that into sort of a trend chart here. So let's just go into our dollar basket, and you can see that with the dollar basket, it's kind of holding in steady here. It's not breaking lower yet. It's not breaking higher yet. It's stuck in that range. So I think you got to keep that in mind. Dollar's neither bullish here. I mean, it's getting a little bounce. We've got a support there. It'll be a lot more bearish if you break the support level. But I think that's really where we are with the dollar. We don't have a whole lot of clarity. Now, the big movement today was really in the yen, and you can see that on the daily chart. Let me take a look at that. Got a nice little double top happening here, and after that reversal candle yesterday, we started to break down today. And if you take a look at the 4-hour chart, you'll see the very similar thing. I mean, if you really go back at it, I mean, we haven't really broken below this 20 and the 50-day moving average on a 4-hour chart until the last last 3 candles here to the downside. In the last 12 hours, it has really weakened. So I think at this point, I always talk about change with the markets. And for the longest time, for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the dollar yen has been really performing well, and you can see that this is no longer the case. So if you've been on the yen long bandwagon, I think it's time to pull back. Does it mean that I should short right away? I think what I would like to see is see a bit of a bear rally or a bit of a base to really short into if that's really where the tide is turned. And if that's the case, I think the dollar likely to rise. And you can see that in the last 3 candles on the 4-hour chart, dollar has been on the stronger side. So there's that negative correlation. So depending on what happens tomorrow, again, I will talk about my opinion and what I think will happen. I personally am not really going for that 50 basis point cut. A lot of times, we get this move ahead of that news event, and then we just start to, buy the rumor and sell the news kind of a thing. I think market might find a little bit disappointed if they are not as dovish as the market is expecting. Remember, markets are expecting to be really dovish here. This is the daily chart and the bond yields, and you can see where the bond yields are. So we're pricing a lot of that negativity. So if the bad news comes out, sure, I think probably there'll be a move here. But then if move comes out less dovish, a bit more surprise, I think then the market has to reprice a little bit here when we can get a big move. So that's what we get. Again, I feel like these big moves are already priced in here. So yeah, maybe there's a little more downside in the bond yields, and maybe the dollar can break down. But I think after that we have to really look at it and see, okay, once the volatility is over, okay, where do we go? I mean, take a look at dollar yen as a pair, and you can see how much we have come down between just in the dollar yen. You can see that this was a notable sort of a jump here in this dollar yen. But I go on a 4-hour chart, and it seems like it's kind of turning its tide a little bit here. So going for the possible setups, what if the dollar comes out strongest? I think dollar yen probably the best here, especially as the yen has turned the tide here a little bit. I think I finally feel more comfortable sort of shorting the yen here, because the last few weeks I've not been able to. The price action was just too strong. Now, dollar yen would be the best case scenario to the upside. Even dollar CAD, which, if you just take a look at the setup here, break above that 136.20, what could be a bit of a breakout level. But, that's another one. But I don't really love the dollar CAD trade here, because, a lot of times they're very correlated. And so those are the two ones. I mean, here we are, the dollar against the Swiss franc. You can see this thing still looks pretty weak here. Looking at the Aussie dollar only, I think, looks the best here on the breakout above the 68 level. This thing is holding in much better 4-hour chart here. If you look at where we were and where we are, we have made a nice recovery here. So Aussie dollar probably the better on the upside. You can see that things have kind of changed as Kiwi's now showing weakness here. And we can actually take a look at it, Aussie against the Kiwi. And you can see that Aussie Kiwi has sort of turned its tide as well. So it's important to, turn when the markets are turning. And here we are. Aussie is not taking a bit of a lead here. Lastly, we can take a look at the euro dollar. Well, you can see that euro dollar looks kind of similar. Maybe the resistance at about 112. The bottom is 110. That's about a 200 pip range. I think depending on where it breaks, we'll probably, it's kind of sitting around the mid range here. So that's really where we are at. I think, I don't want to be jumping into the news of trade before the event, but right after once the dust settles, I think there's probably be better opportunities on a much better follow through here. So that's a game plan. Expecting volatility around the news event. And I always say that if you want to avoid the volatility, just stay in cash. I'll be looking at primarily dollar pairs and also some of the yen pairs. But outside of that, focus on relative strength and weakness. And I think there'll be good opportunities in the next 24 hours. So happy trading. Take care.